Most goalies get pulled after 4 goals. Patrick Waugh sat through 9. The franchise's greatest player skated to the bench, walked past his coach, and told the team president one sentence that ended everything. He never wore the jersey again.
That'll be even more of a story tomorrow, possibly.
This is the story of the night one man quit, and 2 franchises changed forever.
Maybe I could have tell him to come at the bench after the 7 goals, maybe. But, I don't think it's 2 goals who's gonna change a career.
In the 1984 NHL draft, 50 names were called before his. Patrick Waugh goes 51st overall, 3rd round to the Montreal Canadiens. Nobody expects much. He's a skinny kid from Quebec City who spent his junior years with the Granby Bisons, a bottom feeder in the QMJHL. Montreal sends him to their minor league affiliate in Sherbrooke. He only gets a real chance when the starter ahead of him has equipment problems. Waugh steps in, wins 10 of 13 playoff games, and Sherbrooke wins the Calder Cup. The next season, he took over the starting job in Montreal at 20 years old. The Canadiens aren't expected to do anything in the 1986 playoffs. They finished with a middling 40-33-7 record, not expected to go deep. But Waugh doesn't care about expectations. He posts a 1.93 goals against average across 20 playoff games. He stops 467 of 506 shots for a .923 save percentage. Montreal sweeps Boston in 3, survives a 7-game series against Hartford, beats the Rangers in 5, and then takes down Calgary in 5 in the final. The Canadiens win their 23rd Stanley Cup, and the kid in the net wins the Conn Smythe Trophy, the youngest player to ever receive the award. Montreal doesn't just embrace him after that. The city treats him like he belongs on the Forum ceiling next to the banners. Waugh has this thing where he talks to his goalposts before games. Not a joke, not a bit. He genuinely believes they help him. "They're my friends," he once said, "and I thank them for being my friends. The goalposts are always with me. They talk back to me. Some nights they say bing, but some nights they have a bad night too." The fans love it. The quirks, the intensity, the way he stares down his own net before puck drop like he's programming it to obey. The Forum crowd chants his name like a prayer. He becomes the face of the most successful franchise in hockey history. Then 1993 happens. Waugh puts together the greatest individual playoff run the modern game has ever seen. He wins 10 consecutive overtime games, a NHL record that still stands. His numbers across 20 games, 16 wins, a 2.13 goals against average, a .929 save percentage. Montreal beats Quebec, Buffalo, the Islanders, and Wayne Gretzky's Kings to win their 24th cup. Waugh wins his 2nd Conn Smythe. At this point, Patrick Waugh isn't just a goaltender. He is the institution, untouchable, unquestioned. But gods and coaches rarely agree on who's in charge. The 1995-96 season starts badly. Montreal drops 4 of their first 4 games. On October 17, 1995, team president Ronald Corey fired head coach Jacques Demers and general manager Serge Savard in one sweep. 4 days later, on October 21st, both replacements were announced, neither with any experience. Rajan Houle becomes GM, and Mario Tremblay, a former Canadiens forward turned sports radio broadcaster, becomes the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens without having coached a single game at any level. Tremblay and Waugh were roommates during Waugh's rookie season. That is where the warmth ends. On the radio, Tremblay spent years mocking Waugh's broken English to a French-speaking audience. Before the hiring is even announced, the two nearly come to blows at a coffee shop on Long Island. When Tremblay walks into the Canadiens' dressing room for the first time as coach, Waugh snickers. They almost get into it again after Tremblay allegedly fires a puck at Waugh's throat during practice. The locker room splits. Veterans pick sides. Management says nothing. Despite all this tension, Waugh actually plays well early under Tremblay. 12 wins, 2 losses, and a tie in his first 15 starts. Then comes December 2nd, 1995. Scotty Bowman's Detroit Red Wings visit the Montreal Forum. There is a backstory here, too. Tremblay had trash-talked Bowman before an earlier game in Detroit, and Bowman never forgets a slight. Detroit comes out fast. 5 goals in the first period alone. 3 of them on the power play, including 1 on a 2-man advantage. Waugh cannot be blamed for most of what is happening behind him. The defense is collapsing. The game is out of control. But Tremblay does not pull him. 6-1, nothing. 7-1 on a lucky breakaway goal from Matu Dantanu where the puck gets stuck in Waugh's equipment. Still nothing. Assistant coach Yvon Cornway talks to Tremblay behind the bench. Steve Shutt, working the broadcast upstairs, shouts into his headset to pull him. Tremblay does not move. Then Sergei Fedorov fires a shot from center ice. Waugh stops it easily. The Forum crowd cheers sarcastically. Waugh, humiliated, raises both arms in frustration.
Fans getting on Patrick Waugh, who responds.
Fedorov scores again minutes later. 9 goals on 26 shots. Now, Tremblay finally signals for backup. Pat Jablonski, slowly. Waugh skates off. He walks past Tremblay without a word. He steps directly in front of Ronald Corey. It's my last game in Montreal.
Because what he says to Mr. Corey is told him that it was his last game in Montreal.
The next morning, Waugh is suspended by the Canadiens.
First of all, I want to tell my fans how sorry I am for my behavior on Saturday. My only excuse is that I was under a lot of frustration.
By December 3rd, GM Réjean Houle announces he will trade Waugh. The problem is simple. Every general manager in the league heard what Waugh said on national television. Montreal has no leverage. None. On December 6th, 4 days after the game, the trade goes through. Waugh and Captain Mike Keane go to the Colorado Avalanche. Montreal gets back Jocelyn Thibault, Martin Ruzinski, and Andrei Kovalenko. It is considered lopsided the moment it happens. The deal happens because Colorado's GM, Pierre Lacroix, used to be Waugh's agent. He knows what he's getting, and he knows what Houle is giving away. The Avalanche had just relocated from Quebec City that same summer. They already have Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, and a roster built for a deep run. The only piece missing is a goaltender. Lacroix just got the best one alive for spare parts. Waugh plays his first game in an Avalanche jersey on December 7th, a win over the Edmonton Oilers. He doesn't miss a beat. That spring, Colorado rolls through the playoffs. In the Western Conference Finals, Waugh faces the same Detroit Red Wings team that put 9 past him on December 2nd. This time, he eliminates them. The President's Trophy winners, the best regular season team in the league, are gone. In the Stanley Cup Final against Florida, Waugh is nearly untouchable. He stops 147 of 151 shots across 4 games, a .974 save percentage. The series ends in a sweep. The cup-clinching game goes to triple overtime. Waugh stops all 63 shots he faces. Yui Krupp scores at 4:31 of the third overtime. Colorado wins its first championship. Joe Sakic wins the Conn Smythe, but Waugh's numbers across that final are the ones people remember. 5 years later, in 2001, Waugh does it again. Colorado wins another cup, this time against the New Jersey Devils in 7 games. Waugh posts a 1.7 goals against average with 4 shutouts. He wins the Conn Smythe for a 3rd time, a record that still belongs to him alone. He retired in May 2003, holding the NHL records for most career playoff wins and most regular season wins by a goaltender. In 2004, a panel of 41 hockey writers voted him the greatest goaltender the game has ever seen. Meanwhile, Montreal has not won a Stanley Cup since 1993. Not in the years after the trade, not in the decade after that. Not today. Over 30 years and counting. Here is the version of December 2nd that most people remember. Patrick Waugh gave up on his team. He made it about himself. He embarrassed the franchise on national television because his ego couldn't handle a bad night. Selfish, unprofessional, a quitter. That is the easy version. Now, here is what was actually happening behind the scenes. Before Tremblay was even hired, the Canadiens front office was already considering moving Waugh. Former GM Serge Savard had explored trade options in October 1995. The upper offices felt Waugh meant too much to the team. Their words, not his. They wanted to reshape the roster, and Waugh's $2.8 million salary, the highest on the team, was part of that conversation. But Savard was fired before anything materialized, and incoming GM Réjean Houle had no plan for the situation he inherited. Waugh could feel the organization pulling away from him, and instead of addressing it directly, management handed the coaching job to a man who had publicly ridiculed Waugh for years on the radio. There was no conversation with Waugh about the hire. no mediation, no attempt to manage the relationship between Waugh and the new voice in the room. When the tension between Waugh and Tremblay became obvious to everyone in the locker room, management still did nothing. Players took sides. The environment became toxic. Waugh had no ally in the front office, no path to resolution, and no indication that anyone above him was going to step in. So the idea that December 2nd was a snap decision, a moment of weakness from a player who couldn't take the pressure, misses the entire picture. Waugh did not wake up that morning planning to end his career in Montreal. The organization had been closing doors on him for weeks. The game against Detroit was not the cause. Tremblay's decision to leave Waugh in the net through 9 goals wasn't just bad coaching. It was the last door closing. Every person watching that game, the players, the broadcasters, the fans, understood what was happening. Tremblay was making a point, and Waugh, with no private channel left, made his in the only space he had available. The public moment was not the first option. It was the only one left. Every door was closed by the people above him, so he went right through the window. The trade didn't just remove a goaltender from Montreal's roster, it removed the identity. The Canadiens cycled through goalies for years after Waugh left. None of them stuck. The team didn't have a reliable starter again until Jose Theodore established himself in 2001, nearly 6 years later. Montreal made the playoffs in 1996, but lost in the first round to the Rangers in 6 games. The following season was worse. 31 wins, 36 losses, barely scraping into the postseason before getting bounced again in the first round by New Jersey. Tremblay resigned in May 1997, citing the toll the coaching job had taken on his family. "I was looking around and saw my 2 daughters and my wife, and I realized there was not much joy in our family now," he said. "Therefore, I thought it was time to move on." His entire NHL head coaching career lasted 159 games across 2 seasons with 2 first-round exits and nothing else to show for it. He never coached in the NHL as a head coach again. In Colorado, the opposite was happening. Waugh wasn't just performing. He was leading in a way Montreal had never allowed. The Avalanche gave him room to be himself, and he filled it completely. He became the vocal heartbeat of that locker room, the player everyone on the roster fed off. When Chicago's Jeremy Roenick trash-talked him during the 1996 playoffs, suggesting Waugh had been beaten badly in Game 3, Waugh didn't flinch. His response became one of the most quoted lines in hockey history.
I can't really hear what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings plugged in my ear.
The pattern Waugh established on December 2nd, 1995 has repeated across professional sports ever since. A franchise star gets disrespected by management, goes public, forces a move, and proves the old team wrong on the biggest stage. Waugh did not invent player empowerment, but he gave it a blueprint. December 2nd, 1995 looked like a player quitting on his team. It was actually a franchise quitting on its greatest player and discovering, over the next 3 decades, exactly what that cost them. Waugh didn't just leave Montreal, he took the future with him. If Waugh had stayed silent that night, does Colorado win back-to-back cups? Does Montreal's drought even happen? If that question keeps you thinking, drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories where loyalty meets betrayal on the ice, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. If this one hit different, super thanks is right there below the video. It genuinely helps keep these stories coming. Like the video on your way out, takes 2 seconds, means more than you know. I will see you in the next one.